Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Today I'm going to show you how to use EQ. So, what is EQ? EQ is a way to adjust the volume of the individual frequencies in a piece of audio. So it gives you control over things like bass and treble. A great example of a simple EQ is a car stereo. Another good example is a guitar amp where you have lows, mids, and highs. Maybe a simple setup like that. I have an EQ pulled up here so you can see visually what's going on. And all EQs start with the lows over here. This is your low frequencies, your bass, your drums, anything that has impact, low end, that kind of thing. And as you move to the right, you start to move up in frequency. When you hear something that sounds airy or sizzly or has a lot of detail, that's up here in the high end. To start, I'm going to dive into the EQ controls. The first of those is gain. So gain is how much you're going to add or subtract to that frequency. So for example, if I push this up to plus 6.4, you can now see I'm increasing this frequency by 6.4 decibels. Same thing, you can also subtract and remove frequencies. So right here, I'm taking away 7 decibels from this frequency. The next control is the frequency, and that's where the change is going to be made. So right now my frequency is at 840 hertz. But I can move that down if I want to take away or add more low end. I can also move up if I want to make changes to the high end. The third control is a little more complicated. It's called Q, and it's essentially how wide the change is going to be. So right now we have a really wide Q. You can see even though we're boosting at 1200 hertz, we're affecting everything all the way down to almost 200, maybe even 100, and going up above 10K. So that's a really wide Q. But if you make the Q more narrow, you can see you start to affect less frequencies. So the end result of this is it changes how the boost or cut sounds. So a very narrow Q is going to give you a very surgical response. It's great for cleaning up frequencies you don't want to hear because you can take out exactly what you want without affecting too much on either side. However, a wide Q is good for anything that you need to sound natural or sound transparent in what you're doing. EQs are divided up into control points known as bands. And so as you can see here, I have all these options along the bottom for different bands. Now, not all bands look like this. This shape right here is called a bell, and that allows you to boost a selected frequency and some frequencies on either side. However, there's a couple other kinds I want to touch on today. The first of those is called a shelf. So that will let you boost or cut at a certain frequency plus everything above or below that frequency. So what I'm showing you right now is a low shelf, and that is boosting at my frequency of 200 plus everything behind it. There's also one called a high shelf, which is the same thing but for the high frequency. So it'll boost at the frequency you're asking plus everything above it. And your Q will affect that slope. The other kind of band I want to show you is called a filter, and that essentially takes out all the frequencies below or above a certain point. So this one right here is called a high pass filter, also known as a low cut. And what that does is you can see I'm taking out all the frequencies below the frequency I have selected. So if I have this at 200, I'm cutting from 200 down, and it's all going away. This is great for cleaning up low end, getting rid of rumble, room tone, anything like that. There's also one up top called the low pass or high cut. And to explain that a little, it was confusing for me when I started. A low cut takes away the low end. It's also called a high pass, which means the highs pass through. So if you look at it like this, you're cutting lows, but all of the highs are passing through, right? So same thing on the top end. You're cutting highs, high cut, but the lows are passing through, low pass. So I have a couple examples here. I have an acoustic guitar and an electric guitar, and I'm going to go through those and show you how I would EQ it to clean it up and make it sound a little better. So here's the acoustic guitar. So I'm going to start off by engaging the high pass, the low cut here. And I'll pull it up and you can start to hear the low end of the acoustic guitar going away. So right there is arguably too much because I'm starting to hear the low end go away, which I don't necessarily want. I just want it to clean up the things that we don't need to hear right below the low end frequency. The next thing I'm going to do is called sweeping. So I'm going to pull this frequency up and I'm going to sweep around the frequencies until I find something I really don't like, usually something that sounds muddy or boxy, and I'm going to pull that out and it's going to help to clean up the sound. I'm going to make my cue a little bit smaller for this. Right there doesn't sound very good, so I'm going to pull that out. All right, I'm going to grab another band here and do something similar up a little bit higher. Both those frequencies aren't great. The last band I'm going to use is a high shelf. This is going to help add some sparkle and sheen to the top of the acoustic. Now I'm going to bypass the whole EQ so you can hear what we started with. And then I'll re-engage it. There you go. So I'll do another example on the electric guitar. I don't know if you heard, but right in here, it sounds like one of the lower strings was bumped, and there's this rumbling down there. So we can actually find that rumble and take it out. Hear that right there? There we go. It's not completely gone, but it does help cover it up. Now I'm going to engage the high pass. Start to pull that up. And that's going to start to get rid of all that muddy low end down there. Next, I'm going to boost, make my cue pretty narrow here, and sweep around and find some frequencies that I don't want and take them out. It sounds like there's some good detail up here between 3K and 6K. So I'm going to be a little wider on my cue, but search around in there and find some nice detail that adds character to this guitar. That's pretty good right there. So say I don't want some of this really high end on the guitar, I can adjust my high shelf and then pull that out. Here's without all of it. And there you go. Thanks so much for watching. I hope this was helpful to you. If you learned something, let me know what it was in the comments below. And also, if there's anything else you'd like me to do a video on in the future, you can let me know in the comments.